usually the normal expectations is that poor people have worse health. But for some immigrant groups, Latinos, Hispanics included, they have low socio-economic status, but their health is not that bad, according to various research evidence. And this is what we call the Latino paradox. You have a question in your exam, you need to know this. And we've been through the fundamental cause theory, right? Usually if you live in a poor neighborhood, poor water quality, polluted neighborhood, and if somebody has no permanent job, no benefits, the person has a higher likelihood to have poor health. But it's not the case for Latinos. And because of that, we call it the Latino paradox. Because it's in contrary to the conventional link between social economic disadvantage and poor health. And this paradox gained attention among researchers with increased immigration of Latinos to the US. You can read this on your own. And if you go to this section, the definition of Latino paradox is in here, page 3 or page 108. Latinos, the first generation immigrants, they are poor. Sometimes their credentials from their home country do not transfer into the US. We all know that. Many or some Latino Hispanic immigrants, they have high credentials, but they take low ranking jobs not on par with their credentials, but they have pretty good health. It got the researchers curious because of that. So, the answer for Latino paradox is in this page. It says that Latino immigrants, they have better health than the native borns or the other racial ethnic groups, the other minority groups. And researchers wanted to find out why. Usually, poor people have poorer health, but it's not the case for Latinos and Hispanics. And here are all the evidence of how Latinos, especially the first generations, tends to be poorer than the natives by their education and their income. You can read this on your own. And here are more evidence of, despite their low socio-economic status, there's no mortality difference between Hispanics and whites. It got researchers curious. And some studies, maybe they use a different sample size, found that Hispanics have lower mortality rates than whites. It really got people curious. So why is that the case? Do you know anything? Have you heard of the term Latino paradox? Okay. Do you know the meaning of paradox? Yeah. And that's a hint. Who are more able to migrate? Who are more able to migrate? Healthy or unhealthy people? Healthy, right? And some researchers, when they interviewed all these first generation immigrants, they found that those who are able to come here, whether they're legal or not, doesn't matter. Healthier people are more able to withstand the long journey. Coming from South and Central America is not close. It takes days, weeks, and whatnot, regardless of how they come, how they came. This could be one factor. They are the healthier bunch compared to those who remain in their home country. They are already better off, even better off than the natives who are here, regardless of how they came. This could be one factor. And what's another cause? Why Latinos tends to have better health than the natives or other minority groups? Anybody know anything about the Latino family orientation? Okay, how's the Latino family like?
A lot of it is multi-generational and very intimate with each other.
Multi-generational, close-knitted, living together sometimes. They can look out for one another because of that. And do you know what first generation Hispanics normally eat or cook for dinner, for lunch? They eat a lot of American food or they cook their own food at home when they first came here. They cook or they go eat at drive-thru, they go eat McDonald's. If they live in multi-generational household, maybe when parents go to work, other older relatives, or maybe grandparents, they can cook for the grandkids or other parents, other adults who go to work. And sometimes home-cooked meals are healthier. This could be another factor why Latinos have low mortality rates in the long run. For first generation, things can change. When their children assimilate into American culture, things can change. Or when they stay longer in the US, it's not the case anymore. When they first came here, they tend to be healthier. Healthy people are more likely to move, more able to move. And their family structure, close-knitted, extended family, multi-generational family. That's the second factor. And what they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the third factor. And what's the Latino culture? Do you know? I don't know. I'm not Latino. I can tell you the Asian culture. What's the Latino culture? Do you think their culture has something to do with their better health? What kind of culture do you know? Group-oriented, close-knitted family, related to family. They are more family-oriented. And what other culture that contributes to their better health? You've got to think when you answer your essay question. If you cannot think of any more, I think their culture contributed to their better health. Do you think this paradox lasts forever? When they live in this country for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, do you think they will continue to be healthier than the natives and other minorities? Or their health is going to decline like everybody else?
I think they might have fewer genetic diseases, but maybe more environmental ones.
Very good. And they may have genetic diseases. Maybe it wasn't screened when they come to this country. They might not know it. So actually, they may not be better off, who knows, because of all this genetic disease. Or they are genetically predisposed to certain diseases. They may not be aware of. They may not be healthier in reality. And depends on the job they have. Some have insurance, they can get tested. Some will not get tested for the rest of their life. It seems that they look happier, but we never know. Because of that, it remains a paradox. What jobs do Latinos have? First generation immigrants. Does that come with insurance, health insurance, retirement, 401k? Sometimes they do. Professors, people who work in offices, people who came here for grad school, they are Latinos, Hispanics from Brazil, Mexico, other countries. They came here as a student. Or they have their doctorates, MDs from their country. They came here for residency and they stayed. Because there's a shortage for medical professionals, health professionals. Don't believe me, go to UMC and look at their website. So, Latino, there's a great variety among Latinos, right? You see here. Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Salvadorans, so on and so forth. Latinos do not refer to the same people, right? There are great variation, am I right? So, some came for grad school and they got a job in corporations as a professor in other places. They got their green cards legally, many of them do. And they are different. And some work in ethnic restaurants, right? Some work in constructions, am I right? Some work in cleaning businesses as janitors. And for those who are not so educated, some Latinos are not very educated. Or for any reason, their degrees, their PhDs, or whatever degree they have, cannot be transferred to the US degree. And because of that, they have to take a job below them, way below them, right? Are those jobs easy or stressful? Whether they are educated or not. And sometimes their credentials are not recognized. They have to take a job way below them. Are they going to have an easy life or stressful life? Go figure. When they live here for long periods of time. Maybe initially they were healthier, they could move. They were healthier than those who stayed behind. But do you think their health is going to deteriorate over time? For some of them, not all. Do you think their health is going to deteriorate? Especially for those whose credentials, if they have credentials, are not recognized in the US. It may be very stressful for them. And it's logical to assume that their health decline over time, right? Because of that. And if you read through the whole chapter, when I pay attention to you, it seems that you get bored when I read the whole chapter and record the video. I'm not going to do it. You are smart people, you read it on your own. It seems that when you read through the entire chapter, when we talk about Latino paradox, it focuses more on physical health, not mental health, not visual performance, how good your vision is, not cognitive performance. It seems that it's more so physical health. Just one dimension of health. And maybe it's very stressful. Whether their credentials are recognized by this country or not, I think it's equally stressful in different ways. And they have to adapt, whether they have their MDs from Brazil or somewhere else, and they got hired as a professor or in a hospital as a doctor. They have to adapt to the US culture, the US work environment. Do you think it's easy? Or their credentials are not recognized, or they don't have credentials, they start low. Do you think it's easy or stressful? Go Go figure. All this may contribute to their health declining over time. Do you buy that? So, these can be reasons where the paradox do not last forever among the first generations. And their kids, they adapt to American culture. They assimilate to American culture to some degree, right? When you assimilate to American culture, what do? Do you change how you dress? You change your language? You use more English? Do you change your diet? Okay. Is American food, not to offend you, always healthy? Can that be another contributor where Latinos' health decline across generations? First generation is still good. Second generation, because of assimilation and acculturation, diet changed somehow, somewhat. Because of that, second or third generations, when you compare mortality, obesity, and other health measures, they are almost the same as the whites, other minorities. They no longer have this paradox. Do you buy that? Any question?